here we are again.
Hello.
I should mention there's a little correction on the name. It's the Julie and Kaz Show.
Today only. It's the Julie and Kaz Show.
We'll see. So we are two health and wellness fanatics from two very different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Julie. I do health and nutrition coaching and some yoga. And Kaz?
I am Kaz. I am a registered massage therapist and energy healer and owner of Key Health and Wellness in Whitby.
Yeah, and together we will tackle some common and maybe not so common health and wellness topics from our separate viewpoints. Join this charismatic duo once a week as they offer advice, information, comical opinions on a variety of subjects from muscle aches and pains to gut health and toxic environments. And that is what we're talking about today.
Led into, yes.
Toxic.
I think
places.
If you don't know what a toxic work environment is, it's because you're 5 and have not gone to work yet. Because I'm pretty sure anyone I've ever spoken to is like, oh, this one job, or they're currently in that toxic environment.
Well, there are so many toxic workplaces. There are entire TV shows devoted to it.
It's true.
The Office, anyway.
I think if you're an adult and you don't think you're in a toxic work environment, maybe it's because you're the toxic person.
Yes.
Maybe. I shouldn't say that because I would like to think my workplace is a non-toxic environment.
Yours is.
So essentially what we're talking about is that place you dread to go to because of environmental factors, mainly because of the people around you. It's a very negative place. You hate being there. Your health is at risk when you go there. That's really what we're talking about.
You get stressed out.
Exactly. The very thought of it makes you just tense up. That's what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are, of course, those unsafe workplaces. But this is more just that negative energy, the vibe, everything. So for me, I worked at a place, it was mainly middle-aged women that worked there, and most of them were just bitter and angry. And I was this young, carefree, not really, I would say, dedicated to the job person, but I liked to smile and have a good time, and that was not something they were into.
Smiling is criminal.
Oh my goodness. One woman she did not like me and made it known that she didn't like me. And it was awful. It really affected my health. I got very, very sick. I was on medication and I was very closed off. My husband was not sure, what to do with me because I was so miserable at work. And it would trickle into our home life. And then
I've had the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've had numerous workplaces that were very, very toxic and dreaded going in. And I won't name names, but I've taught yoga for a long time. And I would have to say that every studio I've ever taught for has been toxic.
Except for now, where you work
Except
at a great
for now
yoga
it's
studio.
Great. Now it's perfect. So
you're fired.
Oh, darn. Anybody needing a teacher and a practitioner?
This is just the Julie Show now.
Wait a minute. Didn't you fire me off the show?
Yes.
So we should maybe talk about some of the signs that you're in a toxic workplace.
Absolutely.
So employee sickness is one of the top ones. So if there's, chronic fatigue, employee burnout, I actually have a really good friend. She actually had to take time off work. She was so stressed and overwhelmed at this tech company that she just literally, I don't think she's going back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the signs. Narcissistic leadership. Mm-hmm. Higher ups demand perfection while, everyone else, while they meet like minimal, low standards of, job competence.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. Little or no enthusiasm. Lack of communication, which can be really frustrating. Like if you're somebody who's trying to do a good job and there's just no communication that's coming through, it's really frustrating. High turnover. This is huge. Like when there's high employee turnover, that is a red flag that there's something up.
Absolutely.
It's also from the employer standpoint, when you have a high turnover, it's really expensive. You got to keep finding people to train to do whatever the job is. Like, you have to think of your bottom line and really assess what it's costing you as a business. And so it's in everyone's interest. Like, it's in an employee's interest to work in an environment that isn't toxic, but it's also in the employer's interest as well.
Absolutely.
And then, like, cliques, gossips, rumors, this is very high school stuff. And it definitely creates a negative environment that, especially if you're somebody who's gossiped about, like, if you're on the receiving end of it, it's not a fun place to be.
From my professional standpoint, I notice a lot of clients come in and neck and shoulders are just like concrete. And it's the more they talk, I always joke with my clients that I have the word therapist in my title for a reason, because as soon as they get on that table, it comes out. And I welcome it. I love it because it's a form of release. And every day they're going to work and this, tension, the stress is in them. And so it manifests physically within them in terms of their muscles. They get headaches. Some are physically sick, like you're saying, they're off sick. And so when they're on my table, this is coming out and I feel their muscles relaxing. Their shoulders come down from around their eyeballs. And, they talk about it, they get it out. But then at the end, and they kind of say, oh, back to work tomorrow, burp, everything goes back. I can see already it's coming in them. And it's such a shame that we still live in a day and age where it's like this. But
well, I mean, as humans, it's kind of up to all of us to create safe environments in our home and outside of our home. And I know, like, I work very hard with my partner, my significant other, that our home is a sanctuary. And then wherever I go when I'm going to work, I want to have that same safe space. I worked with a client last year who had, again, she was dealing with sort of a toxic work environment. The teamwork wasn't really there. She felt like kind of misaligned by the leadership team. So when we worked together, coaching her through sort of getting her to, she actually wanted to transition to a new job. So our work together as client and coach was just getting her through those mental blocks. And it can be really feel very self-defeating when you're working in a toxic work environment, because you start to doubt your own abilities and capabilities. And so part of my coaching with her was getting to a point where she really believed in her abilities to create a new and a happier work environment. And I was really glad for the time that we worked together, which was, I think, about 4 months. By the end of the 4 months, she was in a new position.
Nice.
And I was so thrilled for her. Because, when if it's very clear that it's not going to change, then you just have to, for your own mental health and well-being, you just have to try and create a new situation.
Exactly.
There's tons of jobs out there. And in fact, in my life, whenever I've wanted to work, I've always found a job. So, and it's important to recognize, like, is it an environment that is open to changing? Like, is there a possibility of the leadership taking, ownership of the situation and going, oh, wow, like, we have people quitting left, right, and center. Everybody keeps getting sick and all this dysfunction is going on. Like, let's overhaul it. Or is it a situation where it just is so toxic top to bottom that you just got to find a new space?
Exactly. I know when I was in the toxic workplace, I couldn't see the trees for the forest, or the forest for the trees, whatever that saying is, because I knew that this was a good paying job. And that's all that really mattered to me, is that money, money, money. I got to pay my bills. Kids are in daycare, which is a huge expense. So to think of, I've got to find another job, I'm going to look, it didn't really cross my mind. I was stuck in that moment of darkness with no way out. So I think definitely it needs to start with the person. Can I change the way I think? Can I change something about my job or the environment I'm in to make it better? Am I maybe causing a bit more drama in my head than needs to be. Like if you're holding on to things, we talked about stress in the last episode, and a lot of it is that endless cycle that goes around
the ruminating.
in your mind. Right. So starting with yourself, if it really isn't you, if you're being bullied, if it's just an unsafe place, if there's people that are your superiors that are making your life hell, what can I do to change that situation? Can I go talk to someone above them? Can I move to a different department? But definitely starting to look for options. And you're right, there are lots of jobs. I know people get very stressed and freak out when you think about having to change, because change is scary.
Change is scary.
However, your life is very important and your health is very important. And if you're stuck in this situation and you can't change it, then you need to look for options.
So I have left... I'm the queen of leaving situations that I don't like.
Right. And I have to applaud you for that, because there's been so many times I've stuck with something because I've been afraid to take that leap.
Yeah.
That unknown. What do I do if I leave?
So I used to work for a TV network that shall remain nameless. And I actually found it so stressful that I took a stress leave. And while I was on stress leave, I went and got some training. And so by the time I came off of stress leave, I just quit. And I moved on to teaching yoga, which was how that happened.
Right.
And then I used to teach, one of the studios I used to teach at in Vancouver, it was so toxic that one day I came home and my husband, and I was, ruminating, complaining about the job. And my husband just said to me, he's like, you just have to stop focusing your energy there. And I thought about it and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
He's one smart man.
Sure is.
I'm super smart because I married him. And he's completely right. And as soon as I chose to unplug, as soon as I walked out of that studio, I just kind of went back to my life, back to my friends, back to other things that brought me joy. It was amazing how much better I felt. And then when it was time to let go of that studio, I happily walked away and handed in my keys.
Nice.
So those are like two different ways that I dealt with, some of the toxic environments. One of the other things that I've kind of come to realize is that sometimes we just outgrow places. And when we have certain situations show up, it's actually a sign for us to rise and to create something new.
Right.
And that can be very uncomfortable, but it can also be really liberating.
Oh, 100%. I know people get very complacent. Like I said, I was very complacent where I was. The money was good. I didn't hate the job, but I really hated the environment that I was in. But I just couldn't see leaving because that was very scary. And so for me, the universe actually stepped in and removed me from that situation. And it has been incredible ever since.
The irony of ironies was when I worked at that said nameless television network, I had benefits, I had vacation, I had possibility of rising through the ranks. And I hung on to that job because I was afraid of losing it, because I was afraid of financial security. And I can tell you, ever since I quit there, I've had more than enough financial abundance. I've never been homeless. I've always had food on my table, and I've always had opportunities. So that goes to show I've been sort of independent, flying solo now for years. And I think I'm doing pretty good.
I know. It's true. So really, to kind of summarize and wrap things up, it's unfortunate that toxic environments happen. Whether it's, really we were just stuck talking to the workplace, but there's also toxic environments in the home, in friendships. We could go on and on.
We should talk about that another time.
We absolutely should. So we want to thank you for listening to us today, to the Kaz and Julie Show.
Or the Julie and Kaz Show.
And stay tuned for our next podcast. Who knows what the name will be of that, but you can follow us on social media, on our websites for more information, for any tips and tricks, and just generally to chat and make me look really popular when I have more likes.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Bye.
This show has been produced by podcastexpert.ca.